everybody. Welcome. And where is Erica? I can't see her at the moment. Hope you're all well. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're with us live, welcome. Thanks for being here. And if you're catching us on the replay on Startup Grind's YouTube channel, thanks for being with us. Drop comments in the comment section. Let us know what you think. Today, we are talking about the future of education and work with our lovely panelists here, who I will introduce you to shortly. Just waiting for Erica to join us. My name's Lara Sheldrake. I am the founder of Found and Flourish. I'm a community expert, business consultant, and a co-director of the Brighton chapter for the Startup Grind. This is my first Startup Grind event, and actually the first panel event I have facilitated in almost a year and a half since having my baby, who's just started nursery. So it's such a pleasure to be back and popping my SG cherry and being with the wonderful women here today to talk about a really important topic. So it's also the 1st of March. Happy March. It's International Women's Month. So lots of things to celebrate. Erica, switch your camera on so we can see you. I'm going to kick things off. So we're here today to discuss the future of education and work. The world has changed unimaginably over the last few years. The pandemic really shook us to our core, from the way we study and learn to the way we communicate and work. Quick question, who here hadn't used Zoom before COVID? Because I definitely hadn't, and I became well acquainted, as I'm sure many of you had as well. And it's incredible to think, just in such a short space of time, how we've adapted, evolved. We're incredibly resilient people. But today we're kind of looking at how the pandemic brought us closer together, but also in ways that it drew us apart. So it really kind of, the gap between people and equality grew wider in some areas, especially in the education and workspace. So that's why we're here today with some of the most up and coming founders who are tackling the skills gap and employability challenges that are forever increasing in our world. And as I said, it's International Women's Month this year. We're embracing equality, and the theme, there's always a theme every year. And this year it is Embrace Equity. And so we'll also be exploring how our panelists are embracing equity and making the world a fairer and more equitable place to live, as well as their own challenges of navigating the startup space and tips for those embarking on a similar journey. So we're going to kick things off. Thank you to those who are with us today. We will have a short amount of time at the end for Q&A. If you've got any questions in the meantime or any comments, please put them in the chat. We'd love to hear about them. And so to start things off, I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves. I was going to go in alphabetical order, but I can't see Erica. So I'm going to go with Mel. Let's go Mel, Sam, and then Erica. And looking forward to hearing from you all. So Mel, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So my name is Melanie. I am the co-founder of an ed tech startup called My Code Kit. And we're on a mission to demystify coding for young people. So there's loads of technology out there for Key Stage 1, which is sort of 4 or 5 years old, up to Key Stage 3, which is year 8, so 13, 14. But then when they get to GCSE, they're given the same tools that I use as a developer and told to just kind of, be resilient. And I don't know about you, but I remember how resilient I was when I was 14, and it wasn't very. So our tool is all about building confidence and resilience when learning to code. There you go.
Great. Thank you, Mel. And Sam.
Hi, everyone. Hi. I'm Sam. I am co-founder of Eric. Marketplace that connects creative companies. So on the opposite side of what you're doing, Melanie, on the creative side of things, we connect creative companies looking for new generations of talent with the young people who are looking to explore their career options in the creative industry. So we kind of facilitate that connection point between those two worlds that never historically have met before, in the same vein as what Mel was talking about. When I was at school a long time ago, we never had anything around the creative industries that, was the same case throughout the entirety of my youth, I suppose. And so that's the problem that we're here to solve, to facilitate that connection between young people who are interested in creative careers and the companies who are looking for that talent.
Amazing. Thank you, Sam. And finally, Erica. Hello, Erica.
I think Erica might be having technical difficulties.
Oh, okay, fine. Hi, Christina, you're on mute. Christina, you're on mute.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, we're struggling to get Erica on, but I'm working on it. So please continue and I'll get her on shortly. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. No worries. Thank you. Okay, so we'll come back to Erica shortly. So my first question, which is to everyone, is what are the main challenges in your industry when it comes to inclusion and equity? And then how is your work looking to provide solutions in these areas? So quite a big, vague question, but we'd love to give you guys the opportunity to share your own personal experiences of this. So we'll go back to Mel first.
Yeah, thank you. It is a big question. It is a huge question. One thing that we found in our industry, like I said, is we were struggling when teaching coding, because I'm a secondary school teacher as well. When teaching coding specifically, there really was this lack of resilience, and classes, I think it's like classes, I think only 20% are female, even less from ethnic minorities and children with special education needs, less so again. And then what we found is COVID has obviously made that even worse. So I think for COVID, it really highlighted that 9% of UK families don't have access to a laptop, desktop or tablet. And it's, even though EdTech has increased that remote learning side of things, it's not a kind of thing all for everybody. What we are trying to do is, as I say, I've lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. We are building a tool to increase that diversity when it comes to coding by creating an app which is agnostic to device. So regardless if the young person has a laptop at home or not. I think one of the things that's the big drivers for us is I used to teach a young lad who was really passionate and really wanted to do well, but he came from a low-income family, and his it didn't matter how many extra sessions that I put on, he would then wouldn't be able to come to them because he'd have to look after his younger siblings because his parents had to work. And he was like nervous to ask questions in front of his peers because you've got mixed ability classes. So what we are building is sort of like a learning assistant that helps them learn how to code, not there to replace the teacher, but to aid the teacher and give them that extra support in a way that promotes, as I say, resilient, encourages them to experiment, but also done in a way that we are using, non-gendered language and designing it for people with low readability scores, as well as making sure that it's accessible to everyone.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing. It's scary, isn't it, when you're learning? And like you say, failure is a big part. I know that there's a statistic that you shared, Mel, that was something like 76% of the time that developers are working, they're is it like failing and learning how to overcome like bugging? Like what was the statistic? There was something to do with.
I've been a developer for a long time now. I've been a developer for 15 years. And the stat is that 70 to 80% of coding is debugging and testing, which generally means stuff is going wrong.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of my time Googling. I spend a lot of my time, almost fighting with it. And 70 to 8%. So
it's a lot of time that you need to get used to kind of testing, iterating, failing.
Exactly.
And so I think that kind of encouragement of learning from a young age and being okay with failing is such an important part of that educational journey, isn't it? That's really interesting. Thanks for sharing. Okay, Sam, over to you. Same question. So main challenges in your industry when it comes to inclusion and equity, which I know you're working towards supporting, and how your work is looking to provide solutions in that area.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So, well, the creative industries, I think, has a reputation, quite a bad reputation for being uninclusive. I think everyone's probably heard the term Nepo babies at this point. And that is the perception that we're trying to get over, that we're trying to I guess, kind of disrupt, because it isn't all the case. And actually the creative industries is doing a lot when it comes to trying to reach out to different types of young people and increase that social mobility inside. However, the big problem is that lots of companies are putting lots of energy, lots of time, lots of money into creating accessibility initiatives, but young people aren't seeing them. And I actually don't think that this is an issue that is isolated in the creative industries. I think that actually expands, that discoverability issue expands way beyond the creative sector. That's just the bit that we're focusing on.
Yeah.
And so what we do at ERIC is we literally increase discoverability of opportunities that are designed for young people from every different type of background, every different walk of life. We allow them to be able to find those opportunities, those accessibility initiatives, schemes, programs, whatever it is, so that they can actually see the creative industries wants them. Because that is part of the issue, is that if young people don't see any efforts being made by the creative industries or any other industry, if they don't see any efforts to increase accessibility, then they will continue to have that misperception of, oh, well, they don't want me. It's not for people like me. That's not the kind of, future that I am supposed to have ahead of me. So that's what we do at ERIC. We literally collect all of the best accessibility program, schemes, initiatives, all of those things, and we put them on our app to allow young people to be able to find what they need. And that's what we're doing in that sector.
And I think a big part of that as well is like paid opportunities, and not just, in the creative industry, people, children, young adults from more privileged backgrounds who can afford to not take a paid internship. They'll go and get work experience because they're being supported by their family. And then, of course, people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds don't get those same opportunities. So I think what's great as well is that you're really kind of spotlighting opportunities in the creative space that are welcoming these like younger generations, but also saying, look, we're going to pay you for your time because we value that, which I think is so important, and a big part of closing that gap, isn't it? That's awesome. Thank you, Erica. So nice to see you. I'm so glad. Oh, you're on mute. Just click the mute button and then we can hear you, and then we're good to go. So underneath the video, there's a little mic button. Yeah, it's not working.
We're so nearly there. We're so close.
Come on. So yeah, it's got a crossed mic off at the moment. Little arrow. I will let you work that out for a minute. Christina, I'm sure, is there in the background somewhere supporting you. So I might move on to the next question. And actually, it's okay, Erica, we will come back to you, because Erica is we are talking with Sam and Mel specifically about, I guess, the education space. We've got kind of like primary school ages up to teens with Mel. Then we've got teens and grads and postgrads and with Sam. And then we're kind of going to be evolving into the workplace with Erica. So I'm going to move on to the next question, and we're going to come back to Erica. Another really big question, but I just know how quickly this time's going to go, and I want to cover as much as we can, and then we can go a little bit more granular if we have time. So the next question, back to you, Mel. What do you believe the future of education looks like in this post-pandemic world, where we are seeing an increasingly growing number of roles in the tech space and the computer science space, but not nearly enough people to actually fill those roles? So bearing that in mind, and what Sam was saying about people just not realizing that these roles exist and what they look like, I also read something that I think you may have shared, Mel, that was that teachers don't actually encourage children to go into computer science. They overcomplicate it. It might be a subject that doesn't seem to be that attractive to work in, and yet it kind of is part of the future of where we're going. So with all that in mind, Mel, I would love to hear your thoughts on that and your own direct experiences working in this space with students and teachers alike.
Yeah, of course. So I don't think it's necessarily teachers are discouraging people to go into computer science, but it is seen as a difficult subject.
Okay,
so only 3% of students actually still take the subject.
Okay.
but as I say, like this is getting better. I think some of it comes down to is part of what the government are expecting. So I don't know, like when I was at school, they just started doing the e-baccalaureate, for instance, where I think you have to, out of 7 GCSEs, 5 of them have to be English, maths, German, or language, triple science, or I can't remember what the last one is, but it doesn't include sort of your more creative subjects. And I think what there is a misconception there of when you're talking about something like coding is that coding isn't creative. Coding is very creative. You look at things like there's musicians who are creating fantastic things with code. There's fashion designers who are creating wearable technology and things like that. And you're kind of limiting students there by, I think they're for e-baccalaureate, they want 75% of students to do an e-bac by 2024, 99% by I think it's 2030. So you've got, as a teacher or as a head of year or a head of school, you've got these targets to match. They're not necessarily matching up with what it is that the students are interested in. And it's not seeing those connections between sort of the creative and the more technology side of things. To your first part of the question, which was about, where do I see education going? Education, I don't know if you've heard about like the third education revolution, where we started putting students into groups based on their age, but rather based on what their interests are or their abilities. I think something there needs to change in order to, ensure that every young person is getting an education that is suitable for themselves. And then I think the other way that it will change as well, we can't do one of these chats without talking about it, is AI in education, which is a terrifying thing, right? But it's about not, and I'll say this a few times, it's not about replacing teachers, because teachers are so important and they're there for that one-on-one support. But it's about using AI to make teachers' workloads less. Because when I used to teach, I used to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to bed at 1 o'clock at night. And I'd only stop to sleep, eat, and mark work. And that was it. So it's about reducing that workload for teachers and students, in more technology into classrooms, but obviously in an ethical sort of way. I don't know if that covers all your question. There was a lot there. There's a lot more.
It does, absolutely. I think it's really interesting. And I do think, there's an awareness piece as well, isn't there? There's an awareness piece of what's available to people, and actually that kind of conversation happening quite early on in terms of what technology looks like in the workplace for those who are at that point in school when they have to make decisions on what they want to learn. Because it's so much easier obviously to get into AI and tech and coding and developing if you started from a younger age. It's not impossible if you started later, because most of us, our generation, started later. But it's I think, I don't know what the answers are, but obviously it's awareness, it's transparency around the industry and what that looks like, and as you say, maybe changing the syllabus or how schools are run so that children are encouraged to lean into subjects that they might either have a skill in or an interest in. And also I think it's understanding like the future of work so that teachers can educate children on these are the things that people do and will do in the next 10, 20, 30 years. If you want to do something in robotics, then this is the subject that you might want to start, exploring. And those types of conversations, I can't imagine happening quite yet. I might be wrong, but it's, as you say, it's introducing these topics and maybe a different way of learning and separating school children out depending on interests and things like that. But that's fascinating. Thank you so much, Mel. It definitely answered the question. I'm going to go to Sam next, and then hopefully we're with Erica and we'll do a quick intro and hear a bit from Erica on the future of work. So Sam, yes, same question to you if you need a reminder. So what do you believe the future of education looks like?
Yes, such a big question, such a nuanced answer as well, I think, that I could give. So I'm going to try and keep it clear. First of all, I completely agree with what everyone is saying. Let's line up with where investment is being put in the business world with what is being taught in schools, But the problem is that schools have no time or energy to be able to understand that world. So the businesses, the industry needs to be involved more heavily in the education system to be able to keep those schools up to date. That's the big problem that I've seen. For example, like in the creative world, we've got the opposite problem to what Mel was saying, which is everyone thinks that the creative industries is drawing, painting and dancing. That's basically it. There are actually 16 different creative industries. They include all the classics that you're already thinking, probably like fashion, music, all of that. But it also includes loads of tech industries like VFX and animation, game, advertising, for example, is part of the creative industries. It is actually huge. But schools do not know that that is the case because companies, industry has not bothered to translate that over to the education system. And that is a huge issue. I like, in the tech world, like create tech and climate tech are the two most invested in subsectors of the tech industry. Schools are still trying to catch up with just the concept of tech. What is that? Like that is the big issue, is that there is literally no communication between these two sides. And that's what we need to do. I think we need to facilitate that conversation. It's what we're trying to do at ERIC. We are being successful because the schools absolutely have an appetite for all of that information. They want it. So, whatever we say to them, they're like, yes, please, more of this. This is amazing. I definitely see the future of education as being more industry education aligned. I also would like to point out the number of big companies that are beginning to put investment into like their own schools, their own universities. I think that will end up being the norm in the future. And I think the two will actually work in tandem. So we all need to get into that now. That's what we need to be doing.
And how do we do that? Because I know you're saying that that's what ERIC is doing, and you're working with schools and education system. Like, how can we as a collective do more of that and encourage that? Do you have to work in the education space to be able to do that and have an impact in this area? Like, what is the answer?
Yes, great question. Well, first of all, obviously come and work with ERIC. I mean, that's number one. Second of all, I actually wrote a report with the BFI, so the British Film Institute. They commissioned us to do a report about how we do facilitate the conversation between industries and schools more effectively. I laid out 7 solutions as to how you can do that, like tangible things.
Great.
Stuff that industry would never know exists as well. Like, it's very much these two worlds exist in their own little ecosystems. So everything that is normal terminology to schools, industry has like literally no idea what those words even mean or what exists. So I've laid out almost like the kind of terminologies, the language barriers, like all of the different like tangible solutions, who you need to get in contact with, all of these things. So basically industry just needs to make more of an effort because they benefit at the end of the day because they're hiring those young people who are aware of those new career options.
Yeah.
But I have laid out all of the ways that you can do that very clearly in the report, so I can send that over to
Amazing. That would be brilliant. Thank you. And I will share the report after with all our attendees, and we'll make sure it's in the description section of YouTube if you are watching this on the replay. Amazing. Thank you so much, Sam. Erica, hello.
Hi there. I'm so sorry about all the technical difficulties. My Google Chrome didn't quite like the startup grind.
That's okay. I had similar issues, if I'm being honest. So don't worry, we've all been there. So it's all good. You're here now, and when we haven't got you for very long. So we're going to kick things off with a quick intro from you. We'd love to hear a bit more about you and what you do. Obviously, bearing in mind that we're kind of seeing this through a lens of equity. I know you're really passionate about this topic and equality and the future of work. So yeah, if you could give us a brief introduction, and then we'll go into the first question.
Sure. So I'm Erica Brodnock. I guess I always start like this, so I won't change that now. I'm a mum of 5. Equity and inclusion runs through my veins. I have founded 4 companies in total, 2 for-profit, 2 not-for-profit. So one was an edtech company back in 2012, Charisma Kids, helps children to develop emotional and social learning skills. The other is KinHub, a platform for the future of work, supporting employees with life's ups and downs and their journeys through life, and just hand-holding them and coaching them through the various situations that we'll encounter, such as having children, getting married, divorced, caring for elders, etc., that kind of tend to take us away from being productive at work. We provide the resources and the community and the coaching that people need to keep them on track through those situations. I'm also the co-founder of two not-for-profits, one research company that looks at understanding diversity, equity and inclusion in the venture capital market. To that end, the paperback version of my book, Better Venture, was kind of launched yesterday. And another, thank you, called the Black Funding Network, that aims to get much needed resources to Black-led charities who are often left out of the social sector. So that's a whistle stop tour.
There's a lot there. And I feel, amazing accomplishments. And I feel like we need hours to discuss all of that. So I'm going to try and condense it down and give you a really difficult, vague, broad question to answer, which is, what do you see as being the main challenges in your industry? So if we could focus maybe more on the future of work, but you're welcome to give your educational insight as well when it comes to inclusion and equity, which I know you're so passionate about. And then how is your work looking to provide solutions in these areas? Cherry pick whichever bit you want to focus on.
Yeah, so I guess I can really speak to a piece of research that I did through my PhD at the London School of Economics and Political Science. I was privileged to co-author the Transparent Framework with Dr. Grace Lorden. She's actually Professor Grace Lorden now. We looked at the headwinds and tailwinds that face women, and my part of that research was around specifically Black women in big tech, financial and professional services in particular. We found that Black women are the least likely to be in the top 1% of earners. Now, women are all disadvantaged when it comes to being able to earn as much as their male counterparts. We're all au fait with the gender pay gap. I guess that there are different types of women, and I'm hoping that the theme of this year's International Women's Day is equity for all. And I do think that we need to kind of look at the nuance of intersectionality in the future of work, because some groups are being over penalised and sort of treble penalised if they come from working class backgrounds as well, for example. And we actually need to start to consider all of the facets of someone's personality and their demographic makeup when we're looking at how we can achieve more equitable outcomes in the future of work. What we do at KinHub is that we are looking at redressing some of the biases that are out in the world. We've trained AI models, and it was interesting to hear you speak, Mel, about AI in education and it seemingly being scary. I don't think it has to be scary at all. I think that if we get the right balance of people building AI and we're making sure that we're training AI effectively, it could actually be the answer to some of the discrimination that we see, because AI won't necessarily, unless we train it to, have some of the nuanced discriminatory behaviours that teachers as human beings often do, because of the fact that we have affinity bias and the homogeneity that kind of goes into the education system as is. So I can contextualize this a little bit with some studies that were done around the fact that if teachers are asked to look at the naughty children in the class and there are diverse children in that class, they will automatically start looking at the diverse children and see them as naughty, whether their behavior is naughty or not. Now, what that leads to is something called stereotype threat, and you have to ask which is the chicken and which is the egg. Are the children then behaving in a naughty way because people are expecting them to behave a naughty way? And does that then lead to some of the exclusions that we see, and then some of the disenfranchisement that will follow them right the way from school, sometimes to prison? And that pipeline is being built on a day-to-day basis. If we could train AI to be less biased and just to meet children where they are, and to give them education and lessons to where it is that they need to go, without any of the kinds of extra connotations that we as humans will sometimes put upon that, then I think that we could have a future where everyone was able to learn to their full potential, no matter their background. And I think that could be a beautiful thing. I think that the same applies to the future of work. If we're able to support people and to promote people based on who they are and the way that they behave, rather than the colour of their skin, where they grew up, what schools they went to, which have absolutely no bearing on their performance in the workplace at the moment anyway, then we'll be in a much better position to turn around and actually start to do things more fairly. In giving people like me the opportunity to build and shape and train AI, it allows that AI to not inherently be as biased as the system is at the moment, and that's where I believe we can make some real gains. We've lost Laura.
I think we're just ask each other questions now. She said she was having internet issues.
Yeah. I was going to say, I hope I haven't scared her off.
What a fun morning we've had. we've got backup Lara over here without her questions, but very intently listening to the conversation. But yeah, I feel like there was so much more there to cover, Erica, that from what Lara asked. So please, obviously we've only got a few more minutes of your time. So is there anything else you'd like to share around your insights for the future and the changes you'd like to see?
Yeah, so I think that there's so much more that can be done, and I think it's on all of us to really start to make the change that we want to see in the world. One of the key things that I see at the moment is that everyone sort of sits back and waits for somebody else to take action. So we need to stop that because if everybody's waiting for someone else to take action, guess what? No one's taking any action. And there's lots of good intent and lots of speaking about what could be done. But I think that there might be a couple of tangible actions that we can take away from this call today. So if I was to share some things with people, if you're looking to move into to work and to start to embrace the future of work, I think that it's really important, particularly if you're female or from any sort of diverse background, that you pay attention to the nuanced kind of lay of the land within your organization. There will be a kind of surface level, the way things work here, and then it's the under the surface level, the way things work here, that you really need to be paying attention to. Who's networking with whom, who's kind of playing golf together, if that's what happens in your organization, who's sponsoring whom, and learning the difference between sponsoring and mentorship is super important, because mentors will give you advice, sponsors will take you under their wing and assure your success. They will be speaking about you in rooms that you won't otherwise have access to. So finding somebody who is able to do that for you, usually a male ally. There are always male allies though, because again, that piece of research that I did with the London School of Economics was it really pointed to the fact that when Black women were able to be successful in their organisations, there was usually a white male that had turned around and said, actually, I think you're great, and then caped for them and spoke up for them in rooms that they didn't previously have access to, and that was what enabled the door to open. Now, if it can work for Black women, it can work for everybody else, because of the fact that actually we are often at the very bottom of the rung, if that makes sense. And so everyone on this call can take away the fact that you need to find a sponsor if you want to kind of advance and move on in your career. And then if you're looking at starting a business, again, understanding the landscape that you're going to be doing that in, and understanding what it takes to be funded. I always say that success leaves clues. So look at the people that look like you that have been able to do this previously. What did they do? What were the components of their company or of their trajectory in a corporate organization that made them successful? You'd be surprised how many people would be willing to just turn around and have a coffee with you and answer that question if only you ask it. And so I would say ask as much as you possibly can from the people that have gone before, learn from that, and then pick a path forward.
Thank you so much. I missed some of that. I'm so sorry. I also had tech issues, but what I did hear was such valuable advice. Thank you. And I think you're absolutely right. It's understanding the level of bias, isn't it? And the stereotyping. And again, it's the awareness and education around that, so that everyone has the best chance possible. And of course, talking about equity, it's about creating the right platforms and support so that you're meeting people where they're at, considering their disadvantages and the stereotyping and other things that cause this gap in equality. So I think it's fascinating, and I've definitely missed the last part of what you were talking about, but it sounded like you were giving advice. Now, was this advice for people in the startup space? Was this for people just in general?
It was in general. It was looking at both career and if you wanted to be a startup. And then towards equity, I think one of the last things that I'll say on terms of advice, befriend someone that you wouldn't ordinarily know that isn't currently in your network, particularly if that person can be the sort of polar opposite to you. So if you're from a higher socioeconomic class, look at somebody and befriend somebody from a lower socioeconomic background. Similarly, if you're a white female, befriend a Black male, and white males befriend Black females, and just start to mix up the people that you associate with. Because I do think that once you get to know somebody and you realize that actually they're not that different from me, and there's so much more that unites us than separates us, it then becomes possible for you to see yourself being a mentor, or sorry, a sponsor for somebody from a different background, rather than just sponsoring the people in your existing networks. And I think that if we're going to change and create a future of work that is equitable for all, we are absolutely going to need to do that, because some of the stereotypes, as you mentioned there, Lara, that are fed to us on a day-to-day basis about people from demographics that aren't middle class, white and male, can often be quite derogatory, and that they make people fearful, and so overcoming that fear and then really starting to care about creating equity is what's going to make the most of the difference, I believe.
Absolutely. Thank you, Erica. And I know that you need to leave in 5 minutes. So I'm going to ask you a question before you need to go, which is, and this could be applied to any of your brilliant projects and the work that you're doing, or KinHub. But what is one of your main goals for this year? And an ask that you might have for anyone watching this back or with us today on the live. How can we support you in achieving that goal and the brilliant work that you're doing?
So my main goal for this year is to have KinHub used in as many organisations as is humanly possible. How can we get as many people that are diverse in any way, shape or form thriving in their careers as opposed to floundering. So anybody that has an organisation of any size that is willing to kind of work with us to support diversity, equity and inclusion, please do contact me via social media or at Erica at kinhub.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And there are some great reports that I've downloaded off the KinHub website. So for anyone who wants a little bit more insight into the industry, it's yeah, there's some great resources on there to check out. Thank you so much, Erica, for your time. Thank you. It's been
Thank
brilliant.
you. It's been a delight to listen to you in the background and then to
glad we could have you here today. Thank you. So I'm going to ask the same question to Mel and Sam in terms of your journey. Now, I didn't ask Erica this question, but she actually answered a lot of this on the call just now. So in terms of sharing a bit about your own journey in growing within the startup space, what tips do you have or advice for anyone that you'd want to pass on to the audience? Now, this could be from a student perspective, this could be from an aspiring entrepreneur perspective. Mel, we'll go to you first and then we'll move on to Sam.
Yeah, of course. So I ended up getting into the startup world sort of by accident. It was because basically I failed a lot at doing things. So like at GCSE, I was told coding was too hard for me. I then failed my A-levels, and then I went into a job where I wasn't in any way, shape or form ready for it and kind of failed to do that. So for us, like the reason that we started our startup is because we wanted to create a tool for young people. It came from that rather than wanting to have a startup. So what I found really useful during that time is just having like a fantastic support network around you, whether that's through, communities like Fan and Flourish that Lara runs, or just going saying yes to the coffee meetings. So if somebody wants to sit down and have a chat with you, like Erica was saying, it's just meeting as many different people as you can and making sure that you're having those conversations. And in terms of like, we've got somebody, we call her our Leslie, which is sort of our mentor slash, person that's kind of holding us up, and just having somebody there that has that experience to give us advice and things.
Where did you find her?
Say again?
Where did you find her?
So we actually won a Innovate UK grant, and she was given to us through them. But she's in it for the long haul now. Like with Leslie, we're not getting rid of her, and she's not going anywhere if she wants to, which is fantastic. But on the on the note of Innovate UK, I would say it's called a smart application, where you can apply from anywhere from I think it's like 50,000 to it's 2 million. It's a ridiculous amount, or 200,000 to 2 million. We didn't get that Innovate UK grant, but we learned so much about our business because of the questions that it asks. And I would say do it more than once. We've done a few of these, and it's just made us look at our business in a completely different way. It's almost like doing a business plan, but in a bit more of a structured way. So it looks at like your market awareness and everything like that. And then my final bit of advice, which is probably not the typical one you get, is to get an accountant as soon as you can. Like, I know, like, because when you're a startup, you're kind of on a bootstrap, aren't you? And you're trying to sort of save money wherever you can. And we did this, and we tried to do our accounts ourselves. I am a developer and an educator. I am not an accountant, and we got fined. So my advice is to get an accountant. I will leave it there.
Brilliant. And it's Caroline, right? We have the same accountant.
No, so we use F6S.
Okay.
But Caroline's also fantastic.
Yeah, she is. And I think that's really good advice. And also, it's really refreshing to hear you say, you applied for that Smart Innovate UK grant and you didn't get it, and you tried again, and eventually you did. And as you say, every failing or every opportunity where we've failed, we've learned, and as a result we have more insight, more experience, and you were then ready to go again and win, and onto really exciting things now. And so I think that's a really important reminder. I've heard of a lot of people apply for these types of grants, not get it, be rejected, and then give up. And it's so important to keep going. there's a whole load of reasons why you may have been rejected the first time round. You weren't ready, they weren't ready for what you have to offer, and so to just keep going as well. I think that's a really lovely kind of lesson there, Mel. So thank you so much for sharing. Same question to you, Sam, in terms of your kind of your ups and downs, the advice you might have in the startup space for anyone who's watching today.
Yes, well, first of all, I'd just like to say I completely agree with the accountancy stuff. My business partner is an accountant, and I honestly thank God every day. I don't have to do any of the numbers. It's amazing. So I definitely agree with that. I've got a couple of different things. I think, first of all, you've got to get rid of like any anxiety you have over like adding people on LinkedIn, cold messaging people, all of that. Like, you've got to take a deep breath and just basically be a bit shameless about it. That has been one of the most beneficial things to our business, is literally just reaching out to people who we would otherwise a couple of years ago been terrified to reach out to, literally because of confidence or anxiety and stuff like that. Honestly, everyone is so willing to get a DM. Everyone's so willing to get an email. The people who want to respond will respond. The others who don't, they don't care. Like, they probably won't have even read your message, so it doesn't matter. So I think number one thing for me is like, just get rid of any anxiety or shame that you have over like reaching out to people you don't know. And along the same vein, like, shouting about yourself is so important, and the great things that you've achieved, the great things that you've done. Like, for every one good thing, there will probably be like 10 failures behind you. That's fine. But celebrating those wins publicly is so important. You've got to be able to shout about yourself, because that's when people really start to take notice of you and what you do. That's what we've seen in our journey. Then the final thing that I would say is on that same, what you guys were saying about holding on. So we've actually been running Eric for 7 years now. We've had 3 versions of Eric. We've pivoted twice. And I think people often think that this new version of Eric is the only version that we've ever had. Like, we have 5 years of hard graft behind us, shaping exactly what we do now. The 5 years that we had before we treat now as like research, but that pivoting process, in the same way that you were saying with the Innovate UK grant applications, that was actually a refining process for what we need to do and what we actually need to focus on. So if your business, if you know that like the core of it makes sense, that like you have a strong message, you have a strong problem that you need to solve, that's great. If the format, the vehicle in which you are doing that isn't working, just like change it. It's okay. Like, everyone has pivoted their business. Netflix was going for 20 years before it actually made any money. You know, like, there are these amazing success stories about businesses who have had a really strong idea. The vehicle in which they were trying to communicate didn't work, so they changed the vehicle and then it worked. And that's what we're seeing with Eric, and I think that's a really important message.
Oh, that's such good advice. And also, just look at the last 3 years and how much everything has changed. Things do change, technology evolves. What did work 3 years ago won't necessarily work now. So it's that level of resilience, innovation, and not being afraid to fail, and as you say, you know, pivoting and trying new things, because if the mission is strong enough and you're really passionate about it, even if you've failed at trying to do it in one certain way, that doesn't mean that it's not going to be a success trying it in a different way. And I think it's important to remember as well, like, no one is expected to do this on their own. One of our values at Found and Flourish is you're not an island. You do not have to have all the skills, know all the people, have all the experience behind you, because it is just impossible. So to surround yourself with a community of cheerleaders, experts, non-exec board directors, advisors, mentors, you know, going out, asking for coffees and DMing people on LinkedIn, just like reaching out and asking for help, because people want to help. People really want to see people succeed. And I think that's really important to remember, especially when you're at the beginning of your journey and everything feels quite daunting. And just on your point, Sam, about being confident, and even if you're not confident, kind of just, you know, winging the confidence. There are some great accounts to follow. So Tiwa Ogunlesi, who's the founder of Confident and Killing It, a great account to follow her. She's brilliant. She's all around kind of like this confidence revolution. Lucy Werner, who's a PR expert, Wern PR, I think is her handle. She talks about branding yourself, putting yourself out there, being your biggest advocate and cheerleader. And Steph, I can't remember her surname, but it's F*CK, being humble. And she talks about, just not being humble, putting yourself out there, and just, being your biggest cheerleader, which I think is important in a world that's incredibly noisy. If you're not going to advocate for yourself, then who will? And hopefully the more that you talk about how great you are and how great, the mission that you're on is, other people will follow suit and will start to notice. And so it's a really lovely knock-on effect, but you have to believe in yourself, or at least pretend to believe in yourself until you really do. So that's brilliant advice. Thank you so much, Sam and Mel. Okay, so final couple of questions. Would love to hear your goals for this year, or just one main goal that you have for the business. I'll come to you, Mel, first, and then an ask that you might have for the audience, so how we can support you spreading the word, and helping you achieve your goal.
Great. And I love that, Sam. Like, I love the honesty of saying, it's taken us this many years to get there, because we have a very similar story ourselves, and it is that kind of, it doesn't happen overnight, regardless of what Instagram is saying. Like, it's such a journey. But back to the question. So this year we are launching our coding tool to schools. So my ask is, if you or your network are interested in taking part in some beta testing, then we'd absolutely love to have you. And then our second ask is, I know you said one, but I'm going to do two, is we're also raising investment so we can, actually do the launch. So we're also looking for introductions to angel investors, but with a keen interest in education and technology. So that's my two asks.
Thank you so much. So Sam, over to you.
Okay, so I think my big ask is a bit more like holistic. I think I really want everyone to just go and educate themselves on what the creative industries are. I think my general issue around what we do at Eric is that people think immediately, like I said before, artist, singer, actor, and that's it. That's all the creative industries is. If anyone has any kids in this chat watching, you as a parent need to go and educate yourself about what the creative industries is, because it is so much bigger than that. There is a high chance that your child might come to you at some point being like, oh, I want to go and work, in the creative industries, or do a job in a creative sector that you've never heard of before. And it is your job as a parent to make sure that you are clued up as to what that is and how lucrative the creative industries is. The creative industries actually employs 1 million more people than the STEM sector. And the UK has one of the biggest growing creative industries in the world. Like, we are going to dominate in this area. It's growing at 5 times the rate of the wider UK economy. Like, it's huge, and it is the future. And so your child is probably going to come to you with a question about a creative career at some point, and you need to educate yourself on what that is. So I implore you guys to go and find out what the creative industries are. You can find that on our website, obviously, plug, that in the chat here.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah, there's some stats here, Sam, actually, to support what you're saying. So I read 1 in 8 UK businesses are part of the creative industry. And a lovely stat here, 93% of 16 to 18-year-olds studying creative subjects say that it impacts their mental health and well-being positively. And I think there's so many benefits. Not only does it take up 1/8 of UK's business workforce, but there are huge benefits working in that space. And it's the same with tech, because I know we kind of talk into one another, and so I think understanding the opportunities around that, how to talk to our children about the creative industries, because it isn't just down to the teachers. As parents, we do have a responsibility to understand what the future of education and work looks like, so that we can best support our children and hold their hands through making certain decisions, which at their age is so difficult to make on their own. It's like asking how we're asked to pick topics at university based on what we think we want to do in a career at 16, 17 is just, you know, mental. So yeah, absolutely great advice. Thank you so much. So the final question actually is, yeah, if you could share where people can follow you, find you online, put your links in there, but it's the Eric app, isn't it? Social media. Is that right?
At the Eric app on all the different platforms. My LinkedIn is here, but yeah, I put the website for
Thank
what we
you so
do.
much.
Free to
Thank
download.
you.
Download the app. There we go.
Brilliant. Thank you. And the same question to Mel. So it's My CodeKit, isn't it?
Yeah. So any social media, we're at My CodeKit, and you can also find us at mycodekit.com. And then yeah, I'm on LinkedIn as well. I'll put my LinkedIn in the chat. Feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to chat.
Thank you so much, Mel. Thank you. So we've got a couple of minutes. Does anyone have any questions in the chat? I know we've had some lovely comments from people, which has been really nice. So really great attitude and approach to using grant applications as you get to know your business better, and it's a great opportunity. Absolutely. John Smith saying, let's just have a quick look. Sarah talking about how she was involved in a Give an Hour for a couple of years ago, which helps businesses and education connect and have more awareness, which is needed. Absolutely. Just having a look at the comments, these are great. Thank you so much, everybody. And we've got Uni of Sussex with 30 students of entrepreneurship joining us, which is amazing. So pleased to see you all here. If there aren't any specific questions, or you have questions once we log off and you think I really wanted to ask them that question, we're going to share everyone's details, if that's okay, with permission of the speakers, in a follow-up email, along with any resources that we've referenced, the reports, the BFI report, some stuff from Mel as well, and Erica, Sam, of course. And then if anyone has any questions for us after this, then please feel free to email us or just respond. There'll be details in the email from where you signed up for the event. If anyone would like any speaking opportunities, get in touch. Silicon Brighton, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Alexandra. I'm sure Sam and Mel and Erica would definitely be interested. So when you have their details, please feel free to reach out. That's amazing. Okay, so we're almost at time. Thank you for bearing with us and the technical difficulties. It's, I guess, a bit of irony that we've been talking about the future of education and work and how technology is such a big part of it, and it's completely let us down today in one way or another. So thanks for bearing with us. Humans will prevail. It's been an absolute pleasure. Massive thank you to Erica, who had to rush off. Christina, my lovely co-director, who was working tirelessly behind the scenes to keep everything running smoothly. Thank you so much to Mel and Sam as well. It has been so interesting, and I'm just sorry that we haven't had more of, you know, half a day to really kind of get into the nuts and bolts of it. But it's been such a great take what you both do, which is fantastic work, and yeah, really grateful for your time. Thank you so much, and wishing you a wonderful rest of the day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.